Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Its underlying mission is to help more people experience mental, emotional, and financial freedom. And yes, that's a big mission. And I tend to focus on helping people achieve that mission through great career in tech roles and the pursuit of personal development. And every once in a while, I get the privilege of having an elite performer in their field, someone top their field, to join us for a conversation. Today I have Nick Monroe, who's one of the top doubles tennis players and just tennis players in the world. He's been ranked at 30 in the world at one point. I think he's under 30 right now. I'm sure going up on the rankings. And Nick, I wanted to thank you for joining. The goal today is to learn about your backstory, learn about your routines, your habits, and how you've sustained success over 2 decades. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. And so weren't you just playing a tournament in Prague? Can you tell us a little about what you just finished up with?
Yeah, so I'm in Prague at the moment. So gonna actually be over here until the end of July, playing pretty much every week till the end of July. But the first week is over here in Prague, and so we lost in the semifinals yesterday. So basically, in the doubles draw, there's always about 16 teams in each draw, and so we won our first 2 rounds and lost in the semifinals, and yeah, had a tough one. So now it's Saturday over here, Saturday late afternoon. We'll leave Sunday morning and have a tournament that starts in Bordeaux on Monday. So basically, every tournament's Monday to Sunday. So you kind of go from one tournament to the next, and and again, we lost a tough one in the semis yesterday, but we feel like we're playing well, learn from the positives, and definitely learn from the negatives as well, and just kind of take those things into the next week.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about just learning from the positives and
Yeah.
learning from the negatives. It's all learning experience. And I was curious, how much are you traveling as a professional tennis player? You're a jet setter. Like
Yeah.
how many tournaments do you play, and how do you manage that travel and sustain yourself?
So I play anywhere from 30 to 35 weeks a year, which is quite a lot. Basically in tennis, they take your top 18 tournaments for your ranking, so you get points each round that you win. So they take your top 18 tournaments that you play for your ranking, and then you keep those points for 1 year. So as soon as you come back to, say, Wimbledon the next year, and if you've won it, you got to defend your points. So it's all about defending points throughout each year. So, anyways, yeah, I play 30 to 35 weeks a year. For me, a lot of it, I'm 40 years old now, turned 40 a couple weeks ago. So a lot of it is, when you're younger, you think you don't have to focus on the little things like hydration, sleep. Good thing for me is I can sleep on a dime. So it's kind of, it's not too bad when I can, hop on a plane. And so, like, let's say if I'm coming over to Europe and I know it's already nighttime, and I'm flying from the States, I just kind of fall asleep right away on the plane, and I actually don't even have to take any sleeping pills or anything. I'll just fall asleep. I'll kind of sleep all the way through the plane ride. And so then when I land in Europe and it's morning time, then I'm already acclimated. So I'm pretty good with that sequence of sleeping patterns on the plane. I think I'm pretty lucky with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick, man. It's like, how do you do
Yeah.
that? I can't sleep on a plane. Do you just
Yeah.
like
Yeah, and a lot of times I don't even fly business. I can just sit in the seat. I put the blanket over my head and just go to sleep. I'm that guy that when you walk past, you'll see the blanket over his head, and he's absolutely knocked out. So that's me. And so yeah, so I'm good with that. And then basically once I get to wherever I'm going, so like let's say I'll land at 8 in the morning in Prague or whatnot, we pretty much go hit right away and just kind of get the muscles firing, the blood flowing, get a sweat in. And yeah, we practice twice a day. Again, I play doubles. So with my partner, I'm always kind of pushing the envelope. I want to practice twice a day. And for me, it's all about the reps. I love tennis. I know that, you can always learn something, right? Even if you're Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, who've been number one in the world, they're always improving their game. So, I feel like the more that you're on the court, the better you're going to get. And so I'm all about the reps. So yeah, to get acclimated, I just get right on the court, get sweating, get going. And then obviously at the end of that first night, you have a good night's rest, and then you're in the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the key difference between being a singles player and a doubles player?
Well, for singles, I mean, I played singles my whole life. I obviously for singles you're covering the whole court. Doubles, let's say they say you're covering half the court, which is not really true. You actually still have to cover a lot of the court and really be an athlete to cover your partner and cut off balls at the net and have quick reflexes. So in doubles, it's more about the reflexes at the net. It's a lot of serve and return and reflexes at the net. Singles is more kind of ground stroke oriented, so more hitting from the baseline. Whereas in doubles, it's more about a transition game and being able to come forward and be athletic. So that's where doubles is. I mean, obviously singles is very athletic, but that's where also doubles you have to still be extremely athletic to cover the net and to have quick reflexes. So that's the biggest difference. And then obviously you're playing with a partner, so you want to make sure you have some sort of camaraderie and teamwork and the fight and the will to obviously want to win for your teammate, because that's we spend so much time with our doubles partner throughout the week. I'm playing with a guy, Fernando Romboli, here in Prague. This is our third week playing together. He's from Brazil. We've known each other for about 10 years, but this is only our third week together. So we get along very well. We have the same drive and determination when we're on the court. And I think that's what helps in any kind of partnership, that same drive.
Yeah, I love the idea of a partnership and that accountability and commitment to each other's success. And obviously, there's a level of communication that isn't quite there when you're playing singles. But I'm curious, what has your routine looked like to get you to this level? I'm sure it's evolved over time. But what types of routines and habits do you practice every day?
Well, I mean, obviously, I always make sure I get 8 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah.
And then typically the night before a match, I'll get anywhere from 9 to 10 hours. And also with hydration, I drink a bottle of water an hour. So a little 12-ounce bottle of water, I'm drinking that every hour. And it's one of those things where the more, I would show you my hotel room right now, but I have waters everywhere, because the more hydrated you are, and the more that your cells are hydrated, the better your body's going to feel, and then you'll be able to perform it at your highest level. So I know how important the hydration aspect is, how important the sleeping patterns are. When I was a kid, 12 years old, and I was number one in the country in 12 and under, number one country 14 and under, 16 under, top 10, and 18 under top 10. But my dad started me out playing tennis when I was 4 years old, and he would have me go to bed at 8 p.m. So when I was traveling with him, we were in bed at 8 p.m. We were up at 6 a.m. and then going to practice at 7:30. So he had me in bed early, obviously knew the importance of sleep and how that affects performance. So I've obviously taken that with me into the pro level. And then also just, again, attention to detail. So I have a notebook that I have in my tennis bag where I have my scouting on every player, right? So
yeah.
So the night before we play somebody, I write down my notes on each player, whoever we're playing against. What do they do well? What do they not do well? What are their patterns? I watch, luckily for tennis, now there's starting to become more video for tennis. There's always been video for baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever. Now there's more video out there for tennis to be able to watch your opponents, find their strengths and weaknesses. So I do that, watch video the night before, maybe 2 nights before, if I know who I'm going to be playing, and put all that stuff in my notes. And then at the end of the day, so like, let's say it's a practice week, at the end of the day, I'll practice and I'll write 3 things I did well and the 3 things I need to improve. So in my notebook, I have that every single day, so that then when I get to the practice court the next day, I'll go back to my notebook and I'll be like, oh, okay, those are the things I need to improve yesterday. Because it's easy to forget,
Yes.
You practice and then be like, okay, this didn't feel great today. And then you show up tomorrow and you completely forgot like what didn't feel great. Yeah. So it's better to write it down. That way you have little short goals each day to know, like, okay, my forehand volley didn't feel great yesterday. Let me see how it feels today. Let me work on that, or this felt really good yesterday and now today. So anyways, just the 3 things I need to do well, or 3 things I did well, 3 things I need to improve. I do that every single day. And so that, that helps me stay just focused and grounded on what I need to improve in my game.
Yeah, consistently measuring and assessing yourself in a healthy way. Most people don't keep themselves accountable like that.
Yeah.
Is the number 3 intentional? Or
the number 3, kind of, yeah. I mean, you don't want to write 5 things you need to improve or 5 things you did well. Like, like with 3, it's like, okay. And sometimes I'm like, fuck, everything felt really good today, so maybe I won't have 3 things I needed to improve. It's like, okay, there's maybe 1 or 2, right? But yeah, just kind of 3 is the right number that I picked. I mean, it's kind of hard to find 4 things that you did like extremely well every day anyway. So it's just kind of 3 is a good number, and then you just kind of pick and choose from there.
Yeah. So obviously you're extremely talented, but you also have crazy work ethic. And I'm curious if you had to put a percentage on how much of your success has been at your elite level has been attributed to talent versus work ethic. It'd just be interesting to know how you'd rank that.
I mean, I'll be the first one to tell you I'm not the most talented guy. So
Yeah.
I would say it's 80% work ethic and 20% talent for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys out there that are 70% talent and 30% work ethic.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I mean, you still need to have a great work ethic, because to reach top 100 in the world in any profession, you gotta have some sort of a work ethic, no matter how talented you are. But I know for me, like, if you ask most guys on tour about me, they would say I'm one of the hardest workers on tour. And then that's not me, saying that. I try to pride myself on, when I walk on the court, I like to know that the other guy didn't work as hard as me. That's kind of how how I'd like to feel when I walk on the court, just knowing, what, I put all this work in that I could to prepare, and there's no way this guy put in the same amount of work. But if I lose, that's fine. The guy maybe plays better than me, maybe he does whatever, but I know that I put everything I could into preparation, and so that's that's what I would say. I mean, I just make sure I get in the hours on the court, the hours in the gym, each and every day, so that because the window to be a professional athlete for any sport is pretty small, right? And
Yeah.
it's only a few players, right? Only top 100 players are really making it. Let's say making money in tennis. You need to be top
Yes.
100. So that's where that's where you have to really understand that small window and put as much effort into it as you can.
So there's a lot of preparation that goes into your success. And they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
And so you've got these workouts and these watching videos and all these things. What is your preparation like on match day? Is it like an hour or two of like different things and stretch it? Like, what is that type of?
Yeah, like let's say for instance, yesterday we played at 3 o'clock. So we, my yeah, I wish I was still 12 years old where I could just walk on the court and start hitting balls. But my body takes time to warm up. So basically we played at 3. So we went to the courts around 11 for 45 minutes. I warm up. So warm up meaning I'm on the bike for 10 minutes. Then I do a foam roll. Then I have a lacrosse ball that I roll on certain spots of my body. They're feeling tight. Then I'll do a bunch of kind of joint stretches. And then I'll do, some of the yoga poses, cats and dogs, things like that. And then I'll finish with a dynamic warm up for about the last 10 minutes. So that's running, high knees, leg kicks, leg swings. So a lot of different dynamic motions. So about 45 minutes it takes me to get the body going to where I want it to be. And then we went on the court, we practiced for an hour. So we did you start slow and then you kind of go into everything that you want to have working in the match, right? And then let's say if we're going into a match and we need to serve a bit more wide on the do side, then we'll work on that a little bit more in the warm up, right? And different things like that. So typically it's a 45-minute gym warm up and then an hour on court tennis hitting warm up. So it's about an hour and 45 minutes. And then we had lunch and then we just kind of waited till it was our turn to play because there were 3 matches ahead of us. So we waited in the players lounge. So our turn to play. And then right before we went on, I did another 15 minutes of dynamic movements and then boom, we went on to the court. So again, yeah, before I play any match, it's about an hour and 45, that hour being tennis and the 45 being the gym warm up to get the body moving. That's kind of my routine.
I'm curious as you step onto the court and it's game time. Where's your mind at? Are you in a present state? Are you like surrendered to the moment? That sounds deep, but like I just did a retreat, personal growth retreat in New Mexico, and we talked a lot about mindfulness, presence, surrender, and visualization too, And are you using any like mental techniques to get in peak mental state?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the night before I'm watching video of the guys that I'm playing. So, while I'm watching the video, after that, I'll write down the things that I saw. And then before I go to bed, I'll do 10 minutes of just laying in bed, visualizing what I saw and visualizing how I'm going to attack it. And of course, there's going to be times when you're visualizing where, okay, I'm going to hit this serve. This guy's going to hit this shot. And there's going to be times when in your mind, you lose the point, right? And that's fine. It's like, okay, wow, he hit a great shot there. Okay, but, and that's fine because then it's like, okay, what can happen. And then there's times where you visualize and it's like, okay, I hit this shot, that worked, that worked. And so then once I go on the court the next day, then it's almost like I've already played the whole match in my mind already, right? So when I go on the courts, and then, and I see a lob go over my head, or I see this type of shot, then it's like, oh, I've already seen that shot. It's amazing. It just so I'll do 10 minutes of visualization before I go to sleep, and then when I actually lay down to go to sleep, I'll kind of lay down and still visualize, and then before you know it, I fall asleep, right? So yeah, so it's just that visualization of seeing the patterns that you want to run in the match, their strengths and weaknesses, and then once you get on the court, it's kind of like it almost becomes like slow motion, like you've seen it already. And again, there's going to be times where your opponent plays really well and you're going to lose the match, and it is what it is. But you just want to make sure that you've done everything you can, the visualization, the warm up, the hitting, all that kind of stuff to be prepared. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say that, a lot of people say, well, are you nervous playing
That's
Wimbledon?
What I was going to ask. How do you know
that?
Are you
nervous playing Wimbledon? Are you nervous playing US Open? And my answer to that question is, you're not nervous if you put in the work. So that's why I like to put in as much work as I can, to the point where I can't go anymore, to know that I've done everything right. So then once I go on the court, it's like, man, nothing to be nervous about. You've done everything you can to be in this position, so it's like, now that you're here, now enjoy the moment, put everything to work, and let the chips fall where they may. There have been times where, of course, you're going to feel more nervous if you're like, man, I wish I would have hit a few more serves last week or yesterday or the day before or whatever, and there are some guys who maybe don't think about that kind of stuff. I do, so that's why I try to make sure I've done everything I can. And also, that, I guess, that goes into my career in general. I just want to know, when I do finish, I want zero regrets. I want to know I did everything right. So I want zero regrets when I finish. I want to know my body, I gave everything I had in my body. I gave everything I had in my mind, my heart, my soul, the amount of hours. I think that's the biggest thing for any, well, at least for me. Can't say any athlete, but just having no regrets. So
that is incredible. If only we could all live our life that way, whether we're in tech sales in the corporate world, or on the tennis court, or whatever domain. The preparation, the intentionality, the work, and then just ultimately not having regrets. Like, that's very powerful. So where did your drive, which was off the charts, come from? This is a deep question. Like, share what you may, but like, what drives you to be great?
Like I said, I started when I was 4 years old. My dad started me out playing tennis, and like I said, we worked a lot. We were on the court from 6 to 7 and 7:30 in the morning before school started at 8. And then after school finished, we were on the court for another 2-3 hours, anywhere from 4 to 6, 4 to 7 p.m. after school finished at 3. So we put in the hours, but I loved it. I love tennis. I love just that one-on-one competitive nature of it. And then obviously with doubles, 2-on-2, but just that competitive nature of it. And then, and then once I saw my work paying off, being number 1 in the country, 14 under, being top 10, 16 under, being top 10, 18 under. Once I also saw my work paying off, I'm like, man, when I was 12, I was like, okay, I want to play professional tennis. So then again, it was just like, okay, if you want to play professional tennis, you need to put in the work, you need to put in the hours. And so that drive of like, this is what I want to do. Then you see something, right? I was already visualizing, like I was watching Wimbledon on TV, and I was visualizing myself there as a little kid, right? So visualizing myself at the French Open when I'm watching this stuff on TV, and then you fast forward, and then I am playing it, right? And made quarterfinals of US Open, and I made quarterfinals of the French, and third round of Wimbledon, and and it's like, man, this is what you were dreaming about when you were 12 years old, and but again, it was that dream, but then also being like, I understand the amount of work that needs to be put in.
Yes.
And so, and same thing. And then when I went to college, it was like, okay, I'm here for 4 years, and at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Nice.
Obviously want to make sure I got a degree and communications, got a degree in communications, which now I'm doing some TV commentating for tennis channels that ended up working out. But, when I went, when I was in college, it was also like, okay, I know I want to play pro, right? I'm here to obviously get a degree and et cetera. So study hard, get good grades, but put in the work still, right? So, of course, freshman and sophomore year, the partying is going to be there. You're a college student. You're still going to,
Of course.
but I was still putting in the work. I was still showing up at 7 a.m. practice, and I would still have the afternoon practice with the team. And so even if, Kobe Bryant always says, like, okay, like if you're going to put in that, if you're going to go out and you're going to do things like that, you still need to put in the work that you're supposed to put in as well. Right. So,
Interesting.
so, you can still have fun and do those kinds of things. But anyway, so in college, it was the ultimate goal was pro tennis, and that's what I was able to do and keep pushing.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Can you find a balance? It's fun to party. I went out last night. I had a good night.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a little banged up today. Hey,
Yeah,
but
no, I mean, I think,
how do you manage that?
yeah, no, I think you have to have a little bit of a balance, right? We were so just drilled into, like, we only see just what's around here, and we don't see anything left or right, just straight ahead, and so, or that's what you have to be to reach top 100. You have to have just kind of straightforward thinking. But yeah, you have to have a little bit of balance. You have to have a glass of wine. You have to maybe have a night out, but then if you do understand that, like, the recovery is going to be, you got to recover the next day, then you got to get back on the court, and you got to do all the right things to get back on the horse, right? So it's good to take a mental break. I don't, it's funny, when I was first on the tour, it was like, okay, I'd travel to India and Indonesia and all these places, and I wouldn't see anything, right? I'd go hotel, tennis courts, I'd just go back and forth, and so, just drilled into only tennis. Now, as I've gotten older, I'm like, yeah, man, you know what? I need to go see a little bit of Prague. I'm here in Prague, so, like, okay, let's go take an hour or two to go see the city after a practice or whatever. Like, sure, get your nap, get your hydration, but maybe, so kind of enjoying the moment a little bit more is what I've learned as I've gotten older. Just kind of enjoying, yeah, this is amazing what I'm able to do, hit a ball over a net for a living. But also, you never know if you're coming back to Prague, or you never know if you're coming to the city. So yeah, go see the city for an hour or two, and take pictures and whatever. And then boom, let's get back to the room. Let's study the opponents and get back to work. Right. So I think just really kind of enjoying the moment a little bit more is what I've kind of come to realize as I've gotten older. So
yeah, that's very powerful, to enjoy the moment and enjoy the journey. And it sounds like you're doing that. And obviously, one of the benefits of what you're doing, being able to hit the ball over the net for a living, which is incredible, is the travel. Are there any other, like, what are some of the coolest aspects of being a professional tennis player?
Yeah, well, obviously the travel, but I mean, it's such a small world in the tennis world, right? So if you're, let's say, top 100, top 200, you're around these, 200 tennis guys, and you guys we're all one big family, right? So we all get to kind of go to dinners together and just kind of, you get to learn a lot about each other. But yeah, just seeing different cultures, different countries, that, I think that's all just kind of, and then just, yeah, you're learning how to deal with time differences. You're learning how to get acclimated to different foods, which normally you can kind of stay on your routines on foods, but you have to kind of get acclimated to different things like that, different spices. If you're in India, how do you adjust to that? And so anyways, it's just kind of just seeing different cultures, enjoying it. So that's why, again, just want to have no excuses when I finish, and just keep enjoying it out here.
Yeah, and another question on the flip side, what are some of the prices you've paid to get to where you're at? Like, there's a price we pay. If you didn't put in the work, you price is regret of not achieving your dreams, but you put in the work, you have a different price of sacrifice or whatever it may be. What are some of the prices you've paid?
Yeah, very interesting you say that. I mean, so when I was in middle school and high school, I mean, I didn't hang out at all at night with my friends. My dad was obviously my coach, and very amazing coach. Understood what needed to be done to reach the top. But it was practice in the afternoon, and okay, let's get some rest because we're going to be up in the morning early. So I never really had nights out with my middle school friends or high school friends. So I didn't do any of that. And then actually, it was my 6th grade and 7th grade year. So I was born in Oklahoma City. Then we moved to Kansas City middle of my 7th grade year. So before that, in my 6th and 7th, middle of my 7th grade year, so about a year and a half, my dad and I would drive from Oklahoma to Kansas every single weekend. So we would, as soon as school was out at Friday at 3, We drove 5 hours to Kansas City, got there at 8:39, sometimes with practice late at night, or we just get there, go to bed, and then so he had basically an academy in Oklahoma, and he also had some kids in Kansas. So there were quite a few kids that I could practice with in Kansas City, which was the reason we would go there, was different kids to hit with. My dad was able to coach more kids as well. So basically, we for year and a half, every single weekend, we would drive there 5 hours up. So then we practice Saturday 6 hours, practice Sunday 6 hours, and then drive back Sunday night, and then I go to school Monday morning. So talk about the prices being paid was just kind of not being able to really hang out a lot with my middle school friends. But by the same token, I was enjoying going to Kansas. I was enjoying practicing with different players, just enjoying the journey of it, which as a little kid, like I was fine with it, and then we finally ended up then moving to Kansas, middle of my 7th grade year. And my dad worked in an academy there to start with, and then started his own thing. So I would say that's the price. And then also, I mean, a lot of your friends always in high school as well. In high school, they always wanted to go out, and I just
Of
never
course,
went
yeah.
out. I never went out,
Yeah.
and they understood it. They understood, like, okay, he's not going out again, and fine, and then also a lot of times I'd have to go to a tournament, so I'd miss a whole week of school or 2 weeks of school or what it might be, and the teachers were very flexible with me. I still got my work done. So prices being paid was just not being able to be as social with your high school friends, middle school friends, whatever. But they if they respect you and understand you and want to be friends with you, they'll understand that side of your life, and so I have some great middle school and high school friends
Yes.
that understood what I was doing then, understand what I'm doing now, and those are the kinds of people you need in your life.
Yeah, that's so true. Friends who affirm you and support you and respect your commitment and don't tear you down or give you a hard time. What was the moment, or do you remember a moment where you discovered, like, shit, I can do this thing, I can be a professional tennis player? I'm just curious, like, at what age, and was there a point where you realized, like, wow, I think I'm gonna do this? Was there like a turning point moment, or was it just more of a gradual
Um,
process?
it, it- well, I mean, I just always believed. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just from the moment when I graduated college in 2004
yeah,
and going pro, I was like, well, I'm gonna make it. Like I just I don't know. There was just no reason. There was no way I wasn't going to. I just didn't cross my mind that, like, well, maybe after 1 year, if I haven't made it, maybe no. Like,
yeah, yeah.
this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing, and I'm going to make it. Right. So, and saying making it, like, I graduated in '04. I played singles for 8 years. So until 2012. And again, to make it in tennis, which sounds funny, but you need to be top 100 in the world, because then you get into the top tournaments, and then that's where the most money is. So in singles, I was around 250 in the world. That was my highest my last 2 years.
Yes,
So 250 in the world. If you're 250 in golf, baseball, basketball, whatever, you're making millions of dollars. But in
exactly.
tennis, it's completely backwards. Where if you're 250, you're barely breaking even,
Man,
if breaking even. So 250 in the world, you're obviously playing like, I mean, I'm beating some of the guys top
incredible.
100. I'm beating some of the guys top 100 in the world. So that's also why I kept playing, because I stayed at 250 for like 2.5 years, and I'm like, man, I'm almost there. I'm almost there, But like, okay, then I realized, okay, then I was 30 years old, and I said, you know what? Like, let me try doubles, right? Because I'd always in juniors, going back to juniors again, I was always top 3 in the country in juniors in different age groups. Then when I was focusing on singles, well, in college, I was good in doubles as well, top 5 in the country most of the years. And then on the professional tour, when I was focusing on the singles, I was playing doubles as well. And I, win some tournaments here and there, but that wasn't my main focus. So then when I was 30 years old, I was like, you know what, let me give doubles a try. And it wasn't like, let me give it a try. I was like, I know I can make it in doubles. I just need to
Yeah,
find a good partner. And I, which is crazy. I found a partner kind of
yeah.
the second week that I decided to go doubles. And we basically took each other to 50 in the world in a span of like 6 months. I mean, we went up, we just won tournament after tournament after tournament after tournament after tournament, after tournament. And next thing you know, like that next year, we're playing in French Open and Wimbledon together and whatever. So we made it up quick, which obviously I found a great partner in Simon Stadler from Germany. He carried me quite a lot. So it's about finding a good partner and being able to stick with that person for quite a while. But anyways, there was no question in my mind if if I was going to make it, mainly because I knew I was willing to put in the work to do it. I feel like there's a lot of people that say they play professional tennis in the lower rank, in the lower tournaments, futures are what they're called. And they're just happy to be there. There's a lot of guys that are just happy to be there. They're happy to just say they're a tennis player. They're happy that their parents are paying for them to travel the world, but really they're not putting in, I've seen it. I mean, they're not putting in 30% of the work they should be putting in, and so, but that was never my mindset, right? My mindset was like, okay, I'm here in the futures, I'm here in the challengers, I'm to the ATP. Let's grind. Let's do it. And I also, I'm very fortunate, kind of a funny story or crazy story. So when I was 12, I went to play. My dad was like, "Hey, we're going to go play this tournament in Phoenix on December 26th." And I'm like, December 26th? That's the day after Christmas. And we always drove everywhere. My dad would drive. So we lived in Oklahoma. My dad would drive from Oklahoma to Miami, Oklahoma to Phoenix, Oklahoma to New York, Oklahoma. So we drive 20 hours, like straight, because he would want to have all of his tennis balls and he'd want to have everything there with him. So I was like, no, I don't want to go to Phoenix December 26th. I'm going to miss Christmas at home. And my dad said, no, we're going to go. So I was all upset. And it was like 2 months before the tournament. I was upset. I was like, oh, I don't want to go. Anyways, we end up going to this tournament. We leave on December 22nd, drove to Phoenix, get there. And so, yeah, start the tournament on the 26th. I end up playing on the quarterfinals on the 28th, playing against another player. Literally, there's 3 people watching. My dad's watching me. My opponent's dad's watching him. And there's one guy behind the fence watching. So we play for 3 hours. I lose the match. And I remember coming off the court crying. And my dad comes up and says, "Oh, tough match." And this guy who'd been standing there for 3 hours comes up and says, "Oh, tough match out there. And I really like how you play, da, da, da." And okay. But meanwhile, like, I'm crying. I can kind of hear what he's saying, but I'm upset, And then I hear him say, "Yeah, but would you guys want to come over to my house for dinner tonight?" And I mean, we haven't met this guy for more than a minute. Right. And
Wow.
for some reason, my dad said, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" And so anyways, long story short, we go to this guy's house. He basically tells us, "Yeah, like, I used to sponsor a guy on the tour back in the day, da, da, da." Next thing you know, this guy followed my junior career pretty much the rest of the way. And then he called me when I finished high school and he said, "Hey, do you want to go pro now?" And I said, "No, I'm going to go to college." And he's like, "Okay, let me know when you finish. And if you graduate on time, I'll see what I can do." And I was like, "If I graduate on time, like, of course I'm gonna graduate on time." Like, anyways, so right before my senior year, he calls me again and says, "Are you gonna graduate on time?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Okay, let me know when you're done." So I call him when I graduate. He goes, "Okay, I'll help you." So he ended up sponsoring me for 7 years on the tour. Full gave me you know, gave me 100 grand a year to play tennis. So 100 grand a year to play tennis. Didn't want a dime back. Just basically, he loved my work ethic. He liked my game. He, most of the time, if you get a sponsor, they want a percentage of your prize money, a percentage of whatever it might be, which is fair enough, right? His name is Dennis. He lives in Phoenix, and I call him my angel, because I'm 12 years old. I didn't want to go to this tournament in Phoenix. I was like telling my dad, no, I don't want to go. Next thing you know, this guy's watching my match behind the fence for 3 hours, and we go to dinner at his house. And the next thing you know, he sponsored me for 7 years. And without him, I don't know if I'd be sitting here right now. Like, I don't know, you know, family had a little bit of money, but it's very difficult and expensive to travel and play on the tour. So without Dennis, I don't know if I'd be playing tennis at the moment. And I always make sure I tell everyone about Dennis because he's an amazing individual. And it's still to this day, never has asked for a dime back. We email every single week. We're as close as they can be. And so it's just, it's awesome that I was able to find an angel like that to support my career and help me get to where I am now.
Wow. Yeah. And you weren't even sure about the tournament, but something serendipitous and beautiful ended up happening. And
yep.
Much respect to Dennis for being that type of positive influence and contribution to you and sticking with you for years while you finish school.
Yeah.
That's amazing. He clearly saw something, and that also is a compliment to you of what he saw, your work ethic and how you're being and playing. So that's pretty special.
Yeah, pretty special for sure.
And that ties perfectly into a question I wanted to follow up with, which is who has influenced and shaped your career the most? It sounds like Dennis, of course, but are there other inspirations? Maybe it's your father. Obviously, he was working with you. Or are there tennis players that have inspired you? Have you had mentors? Who are these key influencers that have helped you be successful outside of Dennis?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my dad. I mean, he started me when I was 4. He's been coaching over 40 years now. Lives in Austin. Moved to
Cool.
Austin about 3 years ago, so he's coaching there now. He's at academies all over in Oklahoma, Kansas. He was director of tennis in New Jersey, Ohio. So he's been everywhere. So yeah, just seeing, obviously, you know, you are you become the people that you hang around, right? So with my dad, his work ethic is through the roof, and so obviously I saw that and made me want to aspire to work that hard and dream, right? So yeah, obviously my dad and Dennis are the two biggest for me, right? I think when I was watching tennis back in the day when I was younger, I mean, I loved watching Michael Chang. I loved how fast he was around the court, how many balls he would make. And then I would go watch his practices. So a couple of times I went to, some pro tournaments when I was 12 years old and 13 years old, and I watched him practice and train and loved just how focused he was. So Michael Chang and then obviously Andre Agassi for me as well. Um, just with his hand-eye coordination and how fast he could hit the ball and stand on the baseline and dictate play. So between those two, those are my tennis inspirations, and obviously Arthur Ashe as well. Arthur Ashe for sure being the first Black to do a lot of things in tennis. So yeah, I mean those three, and then with my dad and Dennis, that's that's about all you need to kind of emulate and aspire to be.
Amazing. And so you're based in Austin. How do you like Austin as a city? It's a crazy time to be in Austin. People are coming here. It's so beautiful. What do you like most about it? And how do you choose that as your home base?
Yeah, I mean, I moved now. It's been 11 years.
Dang.
My best friend from college, Jeff Boyd, who still lives there, we played on the team in North Carolina together. He lives in Austin. So 11 years ago, I was like, hey man, like I was living in Phoenix before, and anyways, I was looking for a change. So he's like, yeah, come to Austin. And then so when I came to Austin, I actually lived with him for 2 years. So he's my best friend, still lives there. But
Cool.
there's a tennis coach as well that I wanted to work with, Grant Doyle, who's an Australian former former pro, and so he was training pros in Austin. So I was like, okay, I'll go work some with Grant. And because at that time my dad was traveling with two women on the WTA tour from Ohio, so he was traveling with them. I wanted to work a little bit with Grant in Austin, so that's what I did. I moved to Austin, started working with Grant. So I was there for about 2 years. Then Grant ended up moving back to Australia. He's from Australia, and I just loved Austin, so I stayed. And yeah, I just love how laid back Austin is, and the people are so genuine. As you know, I live downtown, so I like Austin in the downtown form because I love Europe and I love being able to walk places. So Austin downtown, you can walk to the bars and restaurants and your yoga, your bike class. You can kind of go anywhere you want to go, right? So I love that aspect of living downtown in Austin. And like I said, the people are just great and genuine. So yeah, I mean that's what it is for me with Austin, and obviously as we can see, so many people are moving there now. So hopefully it doesn't change the identity of the city, but it's yeah, I've lived all over the place. I mean, I lived in LA for a year when I graduated. Then I lived in Portland for a year. Then I lived in Phoenix for 2 years. Now Austin is home. So yeah, don't see myself moving anytime soon.
Yeah, such a great city, but 10 years is a long time. I mean, there's a lot of people who've been here for a month, and it's crazy. But as we look back at your career thus far, and it's still going, right? What have been some of your proudest moments? Or maybe there's one or two, but I'd love to hear about that. And then also, I mean, it's a double whammy question, but like maybe one of your biggest challenges or failures and how you responded. So, like maybe a challenge and a failure, and then like a proudest moment.
Um, Proudest moment, I guess, would be winning my first ATP title. So, so when you start, everyone has to start at the futures level, then there's a challengers, then there's the ATP, then Grand Slam. So to get in the ATP tournaments, let's say, again, coming to the top 100 phase,
Yeah.
you be top 100 to get in these ATP events. So it was one of the first ATPs, maybe not the first, but it was like the sixth or seventh that I got into in Båstad, Sweden. Anyways, Simon Stadler and I won the double. So winning my first ATP title in Båstad, Sweden was again, you asked like, did I think I was going to make it? No, I felt like I was going to make it because I knew the work I'd put in. But that really was like, okay, now I've made it, and now I want to push for even more, right? Like you get that first title, now you want more titles. So I have 4 titles on the ATP tour. And another big moment was, again, as a little kid watching Wimbledon, right? So watching that grass court and the guys move on that and just being like, man, I want to play on grass one day. And so the proudest moment was my first Wimbledon was with Simon as well. And we were down 2 sets to love. So you play 3 out of 5 sets. So we were down 2 sets to love, and we came back and won it in 5. So we won the next 3 sets. It was a 5-hour match, and that was my very first match. Yeah, 5 hours. That was my very first.
I didn't realize tennis matches can last that long.
Yeah, they can last. So that was my very first match at Wimbledon, grinding it out, and I think it was like 4 hours and 45 minutes, something like that. So grinding it out, my very first match at Wimbledon was like, it still brings me chills just to think about how we were down 2 sets to love, and you could easily kind of be like, man, this just isn't my day, right? But Simon and I had gone through so much together to get to that point where we were like, man, we still can win 3 sets. We got so much time left, right? Like you were down 2 sets, but let's just take it point by point by point, and the sun's gonna stay up. We've got plenty of time to go, and we just kept believing. And so, anyways, winning my first title and then that first Wimbledon match to get through that was like, was what you work for, right? Something that was difficult. I'd have to think about that. I mean, because to be honest, like I'd have to think about that. But to be honest, something that's difficult, I don't look at anything that that I'm doing or as failing, right? Like, yes, there are times that there's been times where I lost like 6 first rounds in a row, so I'm all the way out here in Europe and I'll lose on a Monday. Then I go to the next tournament, lose on a Monday, go to the next tournament, lose on a Tuesday. So like you're just going week by week and losing round after round after round. But again, I don't see any of them as failures. I do take losses very hard. And again, it's learning from those losses and writing, okay, what happened? What are the 3 things that happened? Let's fix that. But I see it all as like, they're all positive, man. I'm able to play a sport I love, hit a ball over a net for a living, and travel. Like this is a dream, So to see any of it as really a failure is just, I don't really see it that way, So again, when I look back at my career, I'm gonna have no regrets and not see any of it as a failure. So yeah, I mean, maybe as we keep talking, maybe something will come to mind that I would think would be a failure, but right now I would see nothing as a failure.
Yeah, well, I think that's the answer, and that's worth the price of admission for anyone watching this interview, is that it shows your mindset on failure, which is very powerful. There really aren't failures.
Yeah.
Failure is not putting in the work and not showing up or trying. If you gave into fear,
100%.
Well, I actually agree with you. I think that was the perfect answer. So
yeah.
And if we could all approach failure that way and fail forward, and like you said, I mean, I'm going to start doing this is like, what's 3 things I could have improved, and then also seeing it through a lens of gratitude. Like, I'm hitting a ball over net for a living. I'm traveling. I'm doing all this. It's amazing. So I love that perspective. Very insightful answer.
Yeah.
I've got a couple questions left to wrap up. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you again for joining. What's the transition been like to commentating? How did that happen?
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere, which was awesome. I mean, again, I feel like when you're doing the right things, things can happen for you, and you never know when things will come around the corner. So this was during COVID, right when March of what was it now, 2020 when COVID hit first. So I was practicing with my dad a month later in April. So we were practicing, and at this point with tennis, we didn't know where tennis was going. We didn't have a schedule. We didn't know. No sport had a schedule, really, right? So I'm practicing with my dad and just having no idea when the next tournament could be. So we were actually at a court, and all of a sudden I look at my phone, I got a text from Andy Roddick, and Andy Roddick, former #1 player in the world. He's the last American that was #1 in the world, and he used to live in Austin. So Andy and I are also the same year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we played against each other in juniors. We've known each other forever since we were 12.
Yeah.
And I hadn't talked to him in probably, I don't know, close to a year. So I see a text from Andy saying like, "Hey, give me a call when you get a chance. Might have an opportunity for you." So I call him after practice, and he's like, "Hey, I spoke with Tennis Channel. They're looking for somebody, and I thought of you, and maybe it's something that could work." And I said, "Okay, let me talk to them. I mean, I'm still going to be playing as long as they're okay with that. Then I could do it." Anyway, so I was on the phone with Tennis Channel 5 minutes later, and it was a done deal in the snap of a finger. They said, "Look, we're happy that you're playing. That brings different perspective to the commentary, because most of the guys, that we have are former #1s and older players that obviously know the game incredible. But I bring it, kind of the still in the game perspective." So anyways, it was great. So then I had never commentated before, like, at all. And so this was in April, and then my first week, so we do it out of LA, and Santa Monica is where the studio is. My first week was in, I believe it was September. And so I did like 3 weeks of just commentating, and basically they kind of said, "Hey, just a few things that we want to see from you. Your job is to tell why something's happening as a commentator." 2, they were like, always show up on time, because they'd had people who just went on time and whatnot. And 3, they said, just be yourself. Be yourself. You don't need to try to be any other commentator. Be yourself. If you want to crack jokes, you want to do that, but obviously tell the why, show up on time, and be yourself. So I felt like the first. I mean, I can talk tennis all day, right? So I felt like it was pretty easy for me right away. But again, it's like anything else. It's a craft, so you need reps, right? So now the more I've gotten into it, so let's say I did 3-4 weeks at the end of 2020, and then I signed a 2-year contract for 2021 and 2022. So I'm in the middle of my second year now, and then God willing, we'll be signing another contract with them to keep going, because it's amazing through Tennis Channel that opened doors to. I've done some ESPN stuff now at US Open. I did some stuff at this last January at Australia for their main, just called Channel 7, which is basically their ESPN. So did their main network. This year at Wimbledon, I'll do BBC as well. So BBC is obviously their massive network. So through Tennis Channel, it's kind of opened up other doors for other commentating gigs along while playing, which is which is great, because I'm obviously with the guys. I know what's happening in the locker rooms. I know I see the guys in the gym. I see the guys on the practice court. I know exactly how they're training, so I can kind of throw that stuff in the commentary. So it's been awesome, man. It's been awesome. I'm really enjoying it. So that's how it came about.
That's really incredible. And you're using your major, right, for what you studied?
Yeah.
Like how perfect and serendipitous is this?
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
Unbelievable. And you showed a little look under the hood of what a commentator does. I never thought about it. Your job is basically to share the why. And
I mean, anyone can see, if you're watching a tennis match, anyone can see that was an amazing forehand. Like, oh, that was a great serve, or that was a great forehand. Okay, but why was it great? Like, what made that serve great? What made the forehand great? How did he set up the point to create that shot, right? So why did that happen? Not like, okay, so it's easy to kind of give a filler of great forehand, but it's like, okay, great, but then why? So now when you listen to commentary, so I'm studying the NBA guys, Barkley and Shaq and Kenny, and now I'm studying all these guys, right? Because now I'm looking at like, okay, are they telling the why, as a commentary? So I'm now listening for it in every sport. Now I'm listening for the why. I never really listened for it before, but so my job is the why, and then I have a lead that's next to me. So there's 2 of us. The lead is more to give you the stats, kind of who somebody is, that kind of stuff. So the lead gives you the stats. As an analyst, I tell you why are those stats like that, or why is this game like this? So that's how the 2 work together. So now when you look at commentary, you might look at it in a different way, because now I do, so it's fun.
I don't know, it inspires me. You're hitting the ball over the net, and you're commentating on hitting the ball over the net, and you're making good money. You're traveling. What an amazing life that you're living. and really glad to call you a friend.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, do I have any more questions? I think I have two more. Obviously, you've been on the tour for 2 decades. That's ridiculous, right? 2 decades. I
Yeah.
like. We kind of touched on this, but if you can reiterate and tie a bow around this, it'd be great. What are the keys to sustainable success, like long-term success, that have worked for you that you'd share for anyone out there?
Long-term success, I think, would be just focusing on the little things. I mean, the things that seem so easy, right? Like hydration, massive.
Yeah,
I mean, hydration is massive. Like sometimes people go a full day and have like a sip of water, right? Like your body doesn't,
guilty.
your body can't run properly like that. Like if you want to run like a Ferrari, you need to put in the right gasoline, right?
Yes.
So you have to do it properly. So hydration's key. Sleep, massive, anywhere from 8 to 10 hours. So again, with the hydration, I drink a bottle of water an hour. Then with the sleep, I sleep 8 to 10 hours. So those are two things that seem so small, but they're huge. And then for me also, as I've gotten older, I mean, you can't underestimate the amount of stretching and yoga type stuff
Mm,
that you need to do as an athlete. I think that's why Tom Brady is still playing at, how is he now, 45 or whatnot? Like,
unbelievable.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so the stretching, which you don't feel when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, you're like, oh, stretching, what's that? So I stretch a lot, a ton. And then the hydration, the sleep. So those three things are to be, and then work, right? You gotta work. So between those four things, you got to put in the work. You got to stretch, hydrate, sleep. All that stuff is just massive. So that's how, and then enjoy it, right? Like I think that's the fifth one, would be enjoying the moment. I use an affirmation quite a lot, called "See the Good." So basically, I look for the good in everything, right? Like, okay, we lost the semifinals yesterday. Let's see the good in it. Okay, we learned from it. Now we have a day off. Now we'll go travel tomorrow, and we prepare for the next tournament. So you can see the good in everything. It's easy to see what's so bad about different things, but let's see the good in things, right? And that just makes a positive mindset, a positive heart, positive everything, right? So it's a good affirmation that I roll by, and I think a lot of people can use.
Okay. Stretch, hydration, sleep, work hard, and see the good. That was a
Yeah.
great bit to end on, the see the good piece.
Yeah.
We, Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. I don't know if you read that one,
Yeah.
but he was in Nazi Germany in concentration camps. He said the last of the human freedoms is the ability to choose our perspective. And that's exactly what you're hitting on. We can always see the good even in the losses. So,
Yeah.
my final question for you before we sign off is, what is next for you? What are you most excited about moving into the future?
Well, what's next for me is, I mean, we're heading to Bordeaux tomorrow to get ready for the next tournament.
Yeah.
I'm playing pretty much every single week
Yeah.
through the I in Europe. So I have a French Open coming up in a couple of weeks, and I have Wimbledon coming up in a month. So just continuing to stay with the process and understanding that, yes, we'll have some bumps in the road, some losses, but you stay with the process, good things can happen. And I'm excited about it as well, because I'll be doing BBC commentating for Wimbledon. I'll be doing
Yeah.
some commentating for the Tennis Channel for the French Open. And then another really cool thing that I'm doing, which I think hopefully a lot of people will be excited about, is I'm putting together a big tournament in Austin, as you know,
Yes. Yes.
like All American Cup. So it'll be the East versus the West. We have 14 guys in the top 100 in singles. So this will be
Wow.
top 5 guys on the West Coast against the top 5 guys on the East Coast. Because it just so happens that between the 14 guys in the top 100, that's 7 and 7 based on where guys were born. 7 guys were born on the West Coast, 7 guys were born on the East Coast. So we're going to take the top 5 guys from each side and play them against each other. You have the NBA All-Star game, you have an MLB All-Star game, an NHL All-Star game. So it's like, why can't we and shouldn't we have a U.S. All-Star tennis event? Because it's something that we're going to have every single year, because we've got 14 guys in the top 100. I mean, Americans are killing it right now in tennis, and it just puts a bow on the season for them as well, because number one, there's not a lot of team events in tennis, right? Like we're travel alone, singles players travel alone, maybe with their coach, but there's not many team events. And being a college tennis player, I love the team events. And I think that a lot of the players who are in the top 100 in singles did not play college. John Isner did, Steve Johnson did, but most of those guys weren't on a team. So they love to be on a team when they can. So yeah, so putting that together will be the end of November, or sorry, middle of November, November 11th to 13th. First year we're doing it in San Antonio, and then the next year will be in Austin. So we're going to go back and forth between San Antonio and Austin. We have, as captains for each team, we have the Bryan brothers. So Bob and Mike Bryan, who are known as the best doubles team of all time. They have the most Grand Slams, the most titles, everything. They just so happened that Mike lives in California, Bob lives in Florida. So it works out perfect, where obviously they were both born in California, but it just so happens where they live are on the opposite sides. So now this will be the first time they're going up against each other in any format, right? Because they've always been together or same side of the court. So, yeah, that's what I'm very excited about. We're pushing the envelope for sponsorships and all and everything. So it's going really well, and excited. A lot. All the players involved are extremely pumped up. Can't wait. And so that's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that event, and I want to be there and encourage the audience, especially those in the Austin area, to think about making the trip over to San Antonio. Obviously, we'll be in Austin the next year. Really exciting, like you said, to have an all-star type event on our home turf here in the U.S. Nick, thank you so much for joining. This was so insightful. The conversation just flowed. It moved fast for me. I'm sure it did for the audience. It's funny, like some people I'll bring on here are promoting a book or some different things. So I'll be like, or they wanted people to follow their social media. Is there any way we can follow and support you? Maybe it's not a thing for you. I just wanted to throw that out there, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram, Nicholas Monroe 10S, so 10S, but it's 10S, Nicholas Monroe 10S. Sorry. So I do a good job of try to do a good job of, keeping everyone involved of where I am each week, on my stories. So that's kind of a good way to follow me. And then, there's a lot of streaming of these matches. If it's not on TV, there's streaming on atptour.com. They show the streaming of these matches and the challengers and on the ATP tour. So yeah, that'd be one way to follow and just kind of, and be a part of it.
Awesome. Guys, make sure to follow Nick Monroe on Instagram, and I'll link his Instagram in the description. And if you like this video, which I'm sure you did, I'm sure you got something out of it, give that like button a love tap. The YouTube algorithm loves that too, and I'll show this video to more people who could benefit from the message. And make sure to subscribe for weekly tech sales and personal growth hacks that you can chew on like snacks. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And Nick, thanks so much, man, for joining.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right.